Well, hi everybody. Happy Friday, and thanks for adjusting with my travel schedule. I appreciate that Friday late afternoon is probably not ideal for everyone. So thank you for joining us. We have a little smaller group live than what we had anticipated, and I know that many will be watching the recording. But anyway, this is the Go for Gold program, and as I sent out in our executive update email today, this is really designed for anybody who's reached executive, regardless of whether or not you have your sights set on Gold Executive. It's a training and individual coaching series that will focus on strengthening your executive leadership and will cover topics like team meetings and recognition and communication with your team and time management and all those things that as an executive, you're juggling. So, as we get started, again, I want to make sure everybody's in the right place here. So this is really a training series for executives and above, and we're going to strengthen up your executive leadership in many different ways. So let's get started. Here you are, you reach executive, you get the $500 bonus, you're celebrated in the newsletter, you get to attend Summit and Leader Day, but now what? That's the question. Well, one of the beautiful parts of a business like this is that you can set your own pace, and you all are part of the first 200 executives in this company, so congratulations on the big achievement. And I know we've had, some uproar here, but I believe that all of us, all of you, want to continue to move forward, right? So we're wanting to take those forward steps, and now that we're all re-energized for conference, we're ready. Now, I do want to acknowledge that due to the transition, some of you may be working to just gain back your executive paid rank. That's okay. You're still absolutely a true executive. We see you as a true executive. I hope you see yourself as a true executive. You're a valued partner in this company, and we're all rebuilding and focused on forward steps. So with that in mind, I just want to kind of get a sense of where we're at with things right now. And part of these webinars, if you haven't been on one, is we do these polls, and I'm going to keep you engaged here. So just like on a game show, yes, I'm full of game shows, right? From conference to the webinars, I'm going to have you click in your response on where you're at in regard to being paid at your rank, your highest rank. So go ahead and click that in. Okay, thank you. So based on the people who are on here, we've got a mix. Some of you have been paid at that level consistently. Some of you, it's been a little bit or maybe only once. So again, there's no shame in it. It's just we're moving forward, and I hope that you feel the same way. So, at Executive Summit, back in September, when Sue Rush first talked to us, she helped us with a clear understanding of our role as a leader, as an executive leader, so that choices become clearer when you know what your role is. And she said, once you know your role, choices are clearer, planning becomes a habit, and time-wasting habits are minimized. So today, we're going to talk about that role. We're going to talk about next steps so that you can not only know where you are, but fully understand your path ahead. But like I said, first, let's make sure we know the elements of the leader's role, because sometimes I've seen people reach a level like executive, and they somehow forget all those things that got them there, and they end up on a slippery slope. And sometimes I hear words like, I'm focusing more on working with my people. So I want us always to remember the visual of the flight attendant, that you always want to attach your own oxygen mask before assisting others. So you have that in mind. But let's take a look at this visual that Sue Rush provided us. Originally, she provided it back at Summit, and I know she reviewed it again when she was with us at Leader Day. But in general terms from Sue, there are these 8 elements of your role as a leader, okay? And so we start out with the foundation that we are leading by example in what we say, but also what we do. And our team looks to us as to how the business is run. So consistently selling and consistently sponsoring really sets that tone and that pace for the rest of the team. So you don't want to ever let go of those basics. A steady party schedule is just a smart thing to do for the sales, of course, but it's also where you set an example, and it's also where you meet new people that will continue to help us share this message and become a part of your team, and then they do the same. So, you know, it's leading by example. So then the next level of the house, the main floor, is with everybody as the leader. It's your job, right? We're paid an override commission, and it's smart to do this with everyone, to train them, to offer them meetings, and to have regular communication. So those are the things that everybody within your organization should have access to, is the training, the meetings, and the communication. And actually, in this Go for Gold, we're going to dedicate a session to meetings. That'll be our next one in 2 weeks, just on meetings. And we'll also talk about communication. That'll be another full webinar focus on communication and the different ways that you can best communicate with your team. And then we'll also work on recognition, which is what you do on that top level for some of your team. Some of your team will be recognized, some will be coached, some will be mentored. Not everybody wants to put that much time into it, but we will talk about those things. But I think the training segment, you've got that, right? We hit on new consultant onboarding at Summit. We hit on the Rising Star program at Conference. You know that there are those key resources available to you to use in training, and you heard me and the training team and some of your peers really talking about why you want to do that. So that training piece, you understand. The selling, the sponsoring, I think you understand that as well. So we'll focus in on these other sections during this Go for Gold training. All right, so those are the leaders' roles. Now let's take a look at what Pure Haven Essentials says are your responsibilities. When someone first promotes to executive, they get a congratulations card to celebrate. But there's also responsibilities, right? Becoming an executive, it's an honor, but just like in the real world, a promotion means more responsibility, more income, more responsibility. That's just how life works. So as you look at this list, and I'm not going to read through everything, but you might consider taking a look at this. It's actually in your back office as well, the executive responsibilities. You know, most of it should be pretty straightforward. When you and I talk next week, we'll zip through this together and look at maybe what are some of the harder things, you know, what are you strongest in and most confident? Where might you need suggestions to strengthen what you're doing? I truly believe that every single one of you on here has what it takes to, you know, build it big, move up to gold if that's your desire. It's just about commitment, focus, and through coaching, we can help you overcome some of the stumbling blocks. Oh, before I forget, you know, on Tuesday, we started the VIP program for your up-and-coming, you know, high performers. So if there's anybody that maybe you didn't invite to VIP that you think should participate, if you let me know today, it's not too late to add people. But, you know, certainly as a new executive, you're doing the basics of parties and sponsoring, and the welcome wagon calls are so that you have a pulse on all the new people coming onto your team, no matter how far down within the organization they are. The meetings, and I know Annie Babineau is on this webinar. I was just at her team meeting last night. So getting people together on a regular basis, face to face, is so powerful. And you know, continuing your self-improvement is the last one. I appreciate that right now you're doing that. And there are many other opportunities within the company and outside of the company to do that. But we'll chat about those one-on-one. Okay, so when we talk next week, we're going to look at where you are and where you're going. And some of you know I'm a big fan of Brian Tracy. It's so true what he says here in this quote, that people with clear written goals accomplish far more in a shorter period of time than people without them could ever imagine. So, for some of you, it may be steps to upper levels. For some, it may be more consistent sales and sponsoring. Again, I totally appreciate with the disruption in the last few months, you may not be where you'd planned to be, but my goal is to help you get back on track, forge ahead realistically, but also intentionally. Okay? So when you think about that foundation of the house, this is what I call healthy business key indicators. Now, of course, anybody will have ups and downs, a good month, a not so good month, and we've had very unusual circumstances. But looking forward, the criteria to be paid an executive each month, we know that's 1,000 in personal sales. So why would I say the monthly benchmark is 2,500? Okay, if you're focusing on minimums with your executive level, you're kind of not in the, not so much in words, but what you're kind of implying to your team is that just scooting by with the minimums is the way to go. So as a role model, the speed of the leader determines the pace of the pack. And becoming confident with your sales and the booking side of the business, that's pretty crucial to lead your team. Your customer reorders for many of you are already close to $1,000 a month. I mean, if you're working your reorder business. And so if you work that reorder business and hold an average of 3 to 4 average parties a month, that $2,500 a month in personal sales should be pretty attainable, I would think. Now, if you don't have at least 3 to 4 parties a month, it's really hard to keep growing, and it's hard to inspire your team for them to build a strong business. Doing a steady party schedule, it's your way to show others what's possible. They look to you to identify how to run a successful business. And of course, your parties will result in sales, but that as a leader is not really the main reason you do your parties. It's not just a means to sales. It opens up training and sponsoring opportunities. Like I said, that's where you'll meet team members that'll see that the party model is the way to do the business. Sometimes leaders might rely a lot on their reorders or leads from the website or Facebook, posts and things. But it's a proven fact that when you sponsor people at parties, they're much more likely to do the parties themselves. If you're just signing people you meet online in different groups, they'll think that they can run a business online. And quite honestly, you might get a few people and you might get lucky once in a while, but that just isn't a sustainable way to do business. Now, training your team members, that actually becomes easier, I think, when you have parties. I think that it was at Summit I might have shared the story, The Legend of the Question Mark, just real quickly. It's about a high-level direct selling executive that decided that with their brand new, I think it was a Jaguar car, that they had in the passenger seat, embroidered on the passenger seat, a big question mark. And some would say, why would you do that to that beautiful car? It was to remind the successful direct selling executive that wherever they go, they want to have someone in that passenger seat, literally and figuratively. If you're doing parties, who can you bring along with you in that passenger seat? It could be a prospect. It could be somebody on your team that's new. It could be somebody on your team that's stuck. So again, doing the parties, it's not just about the sales. Having someone go along with you is a smart thing to do. You'll have time during the ride to chat with them. They'll see how you do it, which will help them gain confidence. You build the relationship. So remember that when you're doing parties, bringing someone along is a smart way to go. Of course, at $2,500 a month, that level will earn you the trip, which again is probably a goal of every one of you, right? If you're not showing you can earn it, your team won't believe that they can earn it. And your party schedule truly is within your control. Yes, we all have cancellations and reschedules, but overbooking and a focus on parties, that's the lifeline to continued growth. Now, you saw that booking challenge that we shared today. Are you participating? Setting the pace, letting your team know that they should participate, but doing it along with them, posting it on Facebook that you're doing it and that you've entered it, and maybe having everybody comment that as they enter it. Another thing to consider is the sponsoring. Now, I'm not saying everybody's there right now, but a healthy level would be at least 2 to 3 personally sponsored each month. So are you keeping that funnel filled? How many people are you talking to right now? It's a lot easier to have lots of sponsoring conversations when you're doing parties. But again, you should. And so this will help you with a little, Marianne's pitchfork behind you, reminding you to do it. Also, I hope you've got a way to keep track. I've seen some of our high-level executives have shared pictures of their office and a bulletin board with their funnel, with Post-it notes of different names of people is one way I've seen. But keeping that front and center. Who did you immediately contact when you saw the new consultant bonus for the month of May? Who will you talk to today to enter the sponsoring challenge from this week's national call? I don't know if everybody got that, but on the national call, I shared that if you have 10 conversations, the CSI conversations, you could send a note to the challenge email box, challenge@purehavenessentials.com. And when you've had 10 actual conversations this week, we're going to reach out to you with an individual coaching call, and you'll also get a little gift in the mail. So these are the foundation, the healthy indicators that you might consider striving for to keep your business moving forward. Some of you on this call have pretty big teams. Some have smaller teams. Belinda Ellsworth, another one of our speakers from last year, showed us this 8 will make you great concept. And this will help any of you to identify where to put your focus. The basis of our compensation plan is double stars. When you inspire many people on your team to at least the double star level, that's kind of where the magic happens. So how does this work? I'm actually going to send you this graphic, this visual in a follow-up email. And before our first coaching call next week, what I'd like you to do is, okay, you get it, here's you, right? And here are some of your people and some of their people that they've sponsored. So I'd like you to fill in the circles with names of people on your team, but keep it real. Only put the ones that are engaged at least in some manner, the ones that answer your calls and texts and maybe that are doing at least minimal activity. But the idea of this 8'll make you great, this would be a pretty healthy team if you had at least 8 people in your executive group, not that have already promoted to executive, but are in your executive group that you can be working with as they're building their teams. And when you look at it this way, it also will show you where your focus needs to be. If you don't have 8 business builders, well, that's a good indication you need to personally sponsor more. If you got more than 8 good team members, but most of them don't have at least 2 consultants, then the focus needs to be on helping them with the confidence to sponsor. If you have tons of people that overflow this chart, lucky you, or hardworking you, I should say, but this also will help you narrow down who you probably should be spending the most time with. So again, I'll send this to you and I'll have you fill it out and we'll review it together on your call. Okay, so let's quickly review the criteria and the benefits at the executive level. You've all reached this, so it should be pretty clear. So again, 1,000 personal sales, 4 active legs, 2 double star legs, and they have to be separate legs, and 8,000 in group sales. And so then the benefits, you earn 7% on your level 1 consultant volume, 5 on your level 2, 5 on your level 3, and then a 2% executive bonus on everyone as far down as they go within your executive team. And just as a reminder, and I know again some of us are not being paid at executive with the transition, but the way it works, and I think you all know this, but just in case you need to explain it to someone, if you're paid at Star, you only earn on your personally sponsored. If you're paid at Double Star, you earn on levels 1 and 2. If you're paid on Triple Star, you're paid on all 3 levels. And then at Executive, that's where it would go as many levels deep as you have. So, you know, I've run into so many people that just don't get that. They don't understand that it is based each month on their paid rank. And so if you've got some hot shots in level 3, for example, you want to be sure that you are being paid at least as a Triple Star. It's like a video game. It unlocks those levels based on your paid rank. Okay, so the benefits beyond those commissions, we know that you receive leads, right? At Executive, it's not only product and hosting, but it's business opportunity and unassigned consultants that you can be assigned. So that's a reason to be on the map, as we say. You have a permanent invitation to the Leader Days and Executive Summit when you're executive, and the first and free products when it's introduced. And we all know one of the things that makes our comp plan unique is that $500 bonus when you first promote. But it's also, there's a $500 bonus each time you promote someone on your team to executive. Now, just a note, you must be paid at executive the month that someone on your team promotes to executive in order for you to get the matching bonus. And just in case you're wondering, well, what if I'm not paid as executive? Will that $500 matching bonus go to my upline executive? No, it actually just poof, disappears. Nobody gets it. So when you're working with team members to promote, you yourself want to make sure you've got your executive paid rank going on that month. Okay, so a couple of definitions that we're going to look at here. One of them is called promotion security. So when a new executive promotes, and again, you all have promoted to executive, so you probably know this, but it's worth a reminder that when a new executive promotes, the next month, in order to be paid as executive, all they need is 1,000 in personal sales. So when a new executive promotes to executive, they're paid that month at executive level, and then the next month they only need 1,000 in personal sales. Of course, it's smart to strive to achieve all the criteria, but that's what we call promotion security. After that, next month, then all the criteria must be met to be continued paid as executive. Another definition, we're going to define my group, my executive group. So your executive group is you and all the consultants personally sponsored and the consultants they sponsor all the way down. So it can be more than 3 levels. It could be 5, 6, 7 levels. But when a consultant in your group promotes to executive, that executive in their group no longer count in your executive group. Okay? So because you need to have at least 8,000 in group sales, it's important to understand who contributes to that. So let's say this person, L3 here, promotes out to executive, then they and their team would no longer count in that 8,000 that you need to achieve. And by the way, if any of you have questions as we're going through this, don't hesitate to type those in. But that's your executive group. And another, by the way, when we, just coming off a conference, there were national awards for group sales and group sponsoring, right? So it's based on your executive group. Let's say that this year in 2016, you promote out an executive sometime during the year. Their teams, sponsoring and sales, will yes, they will count toward your executive group numbers that you might be shooting for a national award, up to and including the month that they promote, but then they would not count during the months after they promote. And that's regardless of whether or not they're paid at their executive rank in the future months. Once they've promoted to executive, they no longer count toward your group sales. Okay? All right, so for those that might be not only strengthening their executive team, but striving for bronze, it might seem obvious that in order to get to bronze, you need to get an executive on your team. If that's the missing piece, you want to look at your pool of consultants and think about who has the most potential, right? Of course, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's a lot of pressure on one team member, and it can turn them off, you know, if you're pressuring them to be an executive, even if you're pressuring them to be a double star or something. Now, the VIP program is certainly one avenue to get more of your team moving in the right direction toward executive, but let me ask you another question. Okay, game show time again. Let me ask you, how do you identify future leaders, executives on your team? Do you let them kind of identify themselves and come to you and say, yes, I'd like to do that? Or do you tell them that you think they've got what it takes? Go ahead and click in your response. Okay, thank you for your fast fingers here. Okay, so we've got a 25-75% split. That not too many do the self-selection. More of you tell them that they should. So I'm going to just share a quick story on this. There's no right or wrong, but I believe all of you can inspire future leaders on your team. And actually, I myself am living proof that it works. I have been with the Pampered Chef for about 1.5 years. And I did pretty good, you know, with my sales, and then I started sponsoring a little, but I saw the executive level as way up there, way out of reach. And it wasn't until the VP of sales said to me at an event, "So, Marianne, when are you going to join our executive ranks?" And I'll tell you, it was honestly that person, that woman, believing in me and telling me. I hadn't seen it for myself, but her showing that she had confidence in my ability, saying that she thought I had what it took, that motivated me to go for it. And within 9 months, I moved to that level and far beyond. So I'd like you to really think about who's on your team right now that you see that spark in their eye, the desire, the skills, to even go from consultant to star to double star and beyond. You know, we've seen some people just really take off, sometimes 2 to 3 months to get to executive. So sometimes it's a matter of just letting them know you believe they can. So I'm reinforcing this. 8 will make you great. I'm going to have you do this. Again, it really starts with who are these people that you can identify and inspire them and ask them questions like, so we've got that new May new consultant bonus. Who have you talked to about it? Or can you think of anybody that you think might be interested? Sometimes just asking those questions lights that light bulb and then moves forward. Okay, so we're going to talk about that together. Another definition, what is a generation? You might have noticed if you ever scan through your reports that there's something called generation bonuses. So a generation, so you've got your team here that you've built. When one of your people promotes out to executive, that downline executive's team is called a generation. Okay, so generations. You've got your executive group, and let's say you've promoted out another executive. This would be called a Generation 1 team. When you are paid, when you promote to bronze, you've got one executive team, you earn a 4% bonus on Generation 1. And again, this is like unlocking a video game. to be, let's say that executive is going strong and has a big team and they pop out a couple more executives. You, if you're still a bronze and you've just got this person here with 2 more executives under them, sadly, you'll only be paid on this one. To get paid on generation 2, you need to be a silver with at least 2. And it keeps going. Gold level allows you to be paid on the 3rd generation, platinum, and diamond. So it's a very generous comp plan, but you need to grow not only deep, but also wide. So each generation commissions on commissions on entire groups in your downline, right? So the generation bonus. So we pay generation commissions 5 levels deep, and here's how it works. So again, 4% when you're a bronze on any in that generation 1, and then it keeps going just like I described. And that can be substantial. I mean, some of our gold, platinum, diamonds, that 4% on those teams is extremely generous. Okay, so that's where we want to be. That's where we're going to be working toward. One more definition. Let's talk about what happens to your requirements when an executive promotes from your group. Our plan has a nice feature. It's a built-in grace period, which allows you time to rebuild your executive group. So when you have a consultant promote to executive or higher, and it's for the first time, it's not like they, went demoted and then comes back, but when they promote to executive, then in the 2 periods following that promotion, to be paid at executive, you need 4,000 in group sales. So that's half of the 8,000. Now, you get 2 months of grace period after your executive promotes out. Beginning with the 3rd month, then you have to be back at the 8,000. But it's nice because it allows you to rebuild. Now, there's also a situation that you could have 2 executives promote out. So if you've got overlapping, then we don't even require the 4,000. So there would be no requirement. Okay, we've got a question. So is generation 2 any executive under that executive, no matter their original level to you? Yes, that is correct. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they are a level 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just any executive. Yep. And so say my level 1 consultant is an executive. Yep. And you're bronze. But then a level 3 promotes under them. Is that that would be your generation 2, Rachel. So that would be a generation 2 executive. Yeah, so what you're saying is there's someone in between them that's not an executive, but we're just looking at executive groups. Yep, and if we need clarification on that, let me know. But anyway, so grace period, that allows you to rebuild in those months following. Now, hopefully you're not, too wiped out when that executive promotes, that you're always consistently sponsoring and consistently building deep and wide. Okay, so next, let's quickly explore the other levels. And silver executive, it's the same executive criteria, 2 executive legs in your downline. There's an additional requirement of 30,000 in downline sales, and that way you're still paid the regular personal level 1, 2, 3, 2% on your group, but then you get that 4% on generations 1 and 2 groups. Gold executive criteria, oh, by the way, with silver executive, again, it's great to get there by helping 2 people promote, but remember, you want to continue to build your own team. 1 to 2 parties a week will allow you to keep the steady flow. And to Rachel's point, digging deeper, sometimes you may have an organization that has many layers. And like I said, the executive leg doesn't have to be someone in your level 1. So that's why it pays to introduce yourself to each newly sponsored person that's not under another executive on your team, provide supports, training, that's what we call mining for diamonds, and communicate with each downline exec to make sure they're taking care of their own team Watch for green shoots, watch for quick starters, watch for those that are sponsoring new people. Those could be diamonds in the rough, and you can start polishing those diamonds. Okay, another question. What if an executive in your generation 6 or lower promotes? Do you ever get paid on them if there's not another executive above them? So, okay, so Joe, I think that you're confusing level with generation. Generation means that there are 6 executives in a row. I mean, if a generation 6 would mean that between you and that person, there are 6 executive teams. If they are just 6 levels below you, then you absolutely get paid on them. So a generation is not based on how many people there are between you and them. It's based on how many executives are between you and them. Is that maybe that's helpful? Okay, so anyway, like I said, at the silver level, you want to make sure that you're digging for diamonds and really keeping an eye on your executive teams, but also on your executive group. Let's quickly look at gold. And if you're striving for this level again, look at what are the missing pieces. Often what you'll find is it's worthwhile at this level to hold leader calls with your executives and your future executives. You might have people all spread out, so maybe a call would work. But if you've got people locally, get together locally. That's even better. So here's the criteria. Pretty straightforward. 3 executive legs, one of them's bronze, 60,000 in overall downline sales. And one of the things I really recommend as you start to grow your team, if you were with us at Leader Day, you saw the eagle pushing the birdies out of the nest, meaning I think it's time that when executives promote out, that they're doing their own team meetings. Because when executives come to your big meeting each month, there can be a tendency to not take their executive status seriously. And just like a parent, you want to raise independent adults, the same is true with your executives. They need to be able to fly on their own. And when they see the true size of their group each month at their own team meetings, and is it growing, is it diminishing, it helps them identify where they need to focus. Like I said, we're going to do a topic on team meetings specifically next time, but just let me get a sense of where you're at with meetings. Are you holding your own every month, or do you do it with another executive? Have you never done a meeting? Have you done a couple? Go ahead and click on as many of those as apply. And for some of you, you've got teams that are big enough, you might consider, besides your own team meeting, doing a group call or something just for your leaders, and doing some individual coaching to help them stay on track. Really at gold level, that's from John Maxwell. We studied that last time, level 4 leadership, reproduction. Okay, thank you for clicking on your responses. So I'm glad to see that most of you are really doing meetings on a pretty regular basis. For those that haven't, we'll talk about that and see what makes sense for you. So getting together face-to-face, it really can be very, very powerful. Okay, so again, gold executives are paid on everything that we already talked about, and then that unlocks their Generation 3 executive groups. Okay, with the last few moments we have left, we talked about the levels. Let's talk about the perks. So we know that you get the $500 bonus. We know that you get the first and free products. And as you move up, there are additional perks. But let's talk about, at executive level, you're a role model to many people. So things like the table topper incentive, the trip, those are all nice perks. But as an executive, it's kind of sort of an expectation too, that if you're not striving to achieve it, your team probably won't be striving to achieve it. So for those of you that achieved the trip, congratulations. For those that didn't, what can you do right now to ramp up to get on track for Alaska? The trips are definitely a great reward for hard work, but it's also a great opportunity to network, to get the hubbies more committed if they come along, to generate that loyalty for the future, for yourself and for your team, because as many of you know, or for you and your husband or whoever you bring. But as many of you know, once you earn a trip, you never want to miss another one. So again, earning the incentives, I always looked at it when I was in your shoes as it wasn't optional. I was going to go for it. And by doing those right things to build your business, you're doing the right things to earn the incentives. And also, we announced that Executive Summit this year is going to be in January. So of course you'll want to be there. Again, as an executive, it's sort of an expectation, but also start thinking now, how many people can you bring with you to that Executive Summit in January? Picture yourself there with your own table full of leaders. How fun would that be? Lots of triple stars and above. So that's our intro for our first session of Go for Gold. And the next one, May 20th, is going to be on team meetings. And I'm going to do these typically at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Fridays. So May 20th, it'll be 1 o'clock unless I get pulled into some crazy meeting like I did this week. And then going forward, we'll cover recognition and communication and time management. This one, we're going to skip the 4th of July weekend, and it'll be the week after that. So that's kind of the rundown of where we're headed. Now, I always say I'm not your boss, but I'm going to give you some action items to keep you on track. So the first action item is leverage that booking challenge. Set the pace for your team. Show them that you're doing it. Promote it on Facebook, and let's see what we can do to get people filling their calendar. Then I'm going to send you a follow-up email, and it'll have my scheduler in that. Set a time for our coaching call to be held on May 20th, or before May 20th, within the next couple weeks, because the next webinar will be on the 20th. And before we have our call, take a look at what you think is realistic for both a short-term May goal and a longer term, maybe by year end. I'd recommend you set yourself up with those sales. And if you don't have a team meeting on the calendar, think about when that makes sense. Schedule it, publish it, put it out there. All right, so I hope you all have a fabulous Mother's Day. If you want to stay on and ask me any questions, I'm happy to answer them here. You can email me, you can call me. But thank you all for participating, and watch for the follow-up email. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be in touch soon. Bye.